Good morning and welcome back to another episode of The Chatty Hosts. You're here with myself, Karma Rossi, and my two wonderful friends, Boiti and Austin. And today we're going to be talking about holding your own space and what that means and how that affects the way we interact with others and with ourselves.
Mm. Hello and welcome, everyone. I am excited to really dive deep into this topic.
Hmm. I think it's a fun one.
I'm also very looking forward to it. Like, good morning, everyone. Hi, everyone. Just had to pop up in my voice in there.
Oh, I love this. Okay, so this topic has many elements to it that you can sort of go into, from self-love and knowing yourself to the actual act of not allowing others to manipulate or gaslight you. Would any of you guys like to start it off?
So, what I'd like to kind of just make the viewers aware is we all have to understand that each individual holds a sense of autonomy, okay? And we need to pay attention to what our holding space is really saying to us when we're interacting with people. Which is why, and I think a lot of us haven't really been, our schools and one would hope with family uh, that this has been taught, but I get this feeling that we're living in a time where people aren't really respecting or acknowledging their space or how they're holding it, if that's making any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with this. It feels like there's a little bit of two narratives going on in the world right now. One of them being this whole like, you do for family, always make sure to keep your boss happy, put on this persona for the world. And then there's also that whole individual narrative of like being super independent and being your own person. And they sort of clash with each other. And there's a middle ground that allows you to be yourself and know yourself and really embody self love without altering yourself for others or not being honest or clear with yourself and others.
With
Or
yourself.
even going to an extreme point of view and being narcissistic, if that makes sense as well.
Yes, yes.
It's so important to know that yes, you do hold your space, but there are others around you. So one thing I've especially been learning with actually holding your space, um, is you really have to listen to that fine inner voice that is speaking all the time, and you have to check in with that because let's also face it, like we're not gonna like everyone, and everyone's not gonna like us, and that's perfectly okay. But it's important to notice, okay, what is when I'm interacting with so and so, how do I feel? Am I feeling safe? Am I feeling acknowledged? Or what's the word? Am I feeling held? And when we can't answer those questions, we then need to start looking a bit deeper and going, okay, why am I putting myself in these situations? Or what am I trying to get from this? If that's making sense.
Oh, I love that.
It is making a whole lot of sense. I love how you actually had set down also with the questions of what are you benefiting from treating people a specific way? Like, because we tend to put ourselves in situations that are intense just to please the next person and forget to put ourselves first. And it's always important to prioritize yourself because the next person does the exact same thing. And I believe or think with prioritizing other people over yourself could possibly be a lack of self love. I don't know, you guys are more than welcome.
Absolutely. It would be a lack of self-love and one's sense of self-esteem. I was busy doing an assessment on ethics and counseling, and one of the values that I had to place there was autonomy, respecting your entire being and who you are. Like when you walk into a room, you acknowledge that you're holding that space. And I've just, for me, especially, back in the day, I never really respected or held my space until recently, where I'm starting to be like, hey, I deserve to be in this room, and what I can give to the table is only what I can give. And it's just by giving yourself that I could put in brackets that space to to um to show that is remarkable, because there is only one you, which is, what I want to make very clear to the viewers. There is there's some, even though, there's like billions of people on the planet, every person on that planet has something to give. And once we start to learn that and know that, you'll see how things start to shift and change.
With what you just said, Austin, that you'd always never fully walk into a room and own up to it. You guys have known me for the longest time. I believe, like, with me, it has been completely different. Where when I walk into a space, I hold up the space. I remember when, like, right after varsity, I applied for a job, and being myself, not saying that it's okay to be late. I got into my very first meeting into the office quite late, but I walked in with so much confidence and understanding that I'm worth so much more than being late, and I understand that my work ethic will show for itself later on the stage. And I walked in, presented myself pretty well. The bosses were quite impressed. It's just that I carried a great energy to say, I know I'm late, but I'm owning up the space. And you'll be grateful for having me, because I know that, as you said, Austin, there's only one me and there's only one person that can do this job the way I'm going to do it. I know you've got other candidates here, but they'll never be like me or be me, and that's what makes me different. And understanding that you're different could be a very powerful strength, because you're in control of who you are, how you operate, and how different you are, and that's powerful.
I love that.
That's definitely true. And of course, one can, learn from that experience, and also just make sure to use the context in which it's given. Because it's important. I mean, of course, you know, we all try our best not to be late at certain meetings, and I understand, life is also busy, but it's so important that we don't fall into that other category where we become too arrogant or entitled. Because I've also started to see that as well with people who, you know, it's good to have that confidence to walk in and be like, this is who I am. But, we also need to understand that we have to respect other people's space as well. So I always believe there's this fine line. Sometimes one has to, really show who they are, and that their space is worthy of investing. And sometimes it's important to just acknowledge that everyone is worth investing, if that makes sense.
100% agree and hear where you're coming from, Austin.
I love that. And I think that touches on like the difference between self love and ego. Self love is that understanding of self and of others. It is an acceptance of self and others, whereas ego is the one that says, I'm better than you. So I feel like this is very a clear sign of self love. Like, I'm still worthy, even though there are imperfections. Yeah. And I love this because it's that whole holding space and allowing yourself to know who you are and hold that self-love close enough that you're not altered by other people's realities or behavior. Because I know so often, especially as someone who is, as I put it, a recovering people pleaser, um, it can be super hard to hold my own space when it feels like another person is trying to make me do something or trying to like get something out of me. So my past self would become the version of myself that they needed. So super friendly, super helpful, super whatever they needed. But through learning about self love and identifying my own worth, I'm allowed to step back from those manipulation techniques and just be like, I'm going to hold exactly myself. So I'm not going to mirror or mimic another person's behavior to feel self worth or to feel like I'm valued in a situation. I'm able to acknowledge my own self worth and hold my own space within an environment. So, for instance, if someone is being rude, I'm not going to become the rude one. I'm going to be me. I'm going to completely and utterly hold my space because I know my worth and I know my value and I know how I behave. I'm not going to become another person or behave in a different way just because another person does that.
Exactly. No, I mean, that is hitting truth right there. And I from another angle, I think it's so important. I think the biggest thing here about holding one's space is also being able to have that self-awareness. Like, check in, be like, all right, what is this person trying? Because I think everyone here, we're all technically like adverts for ourselves. We're all trying to, um, what's it, showcase who we are. And it's important to see like, what is this person trying to give or trying to explain? And then does it work with you? Yes, that's great. If no, then that's also something to look into. To And I love that what you said there, Karma, like to not bow to that person's will or to completely alter oneself just so we can make that person feel comfortable or pleased. We have to learn not to compromise or compromise ourselves in those ways.
Yeah.
I also believe that it comes with the thing, what Karma, you said, mimicking people's behavior. Just going to bring up when, for example, you're in an argument with someone and automatically, because they're angry or they're furious, they want a reaction out of you. I think there's nothing more powerful than being able to remain cool, because nothing is more beautiful than being in control of yourself. Because when people trying to fight or want you out of character and you get out of character, for me it's a sign of weakness. It's like you're allowing the next person to come in and take you out of character and make you the bad person or the crazy person, where you could choose to be at peace and pick your battles or your struggles. I think I'm at a point in life where I sit down and I'm just like, this fight is not worth it. Honestly, you're not gonna provoke me to that extent, because it holds so much negativity around your energy and who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you've literally hit the nail on the head there. And it reminds me of that quote where they're like, something like this. I can never remember my quotes exactly. Um, they say, don't ever allow another person to trigger you back to an unhealed version of yourself. And it's difficult. This takes practice for our audience. It's not like a one-way street. Healing's not linear. But learning to stand alone is definitely the most powerful healing technique we can manage or foster in our life, because it allows us complete control of our triggers, of our reality, and allows us to not like shift into past behaviors that no longer serve us. And it's definitely not an easy one. Like, I think we can all say this for a fact. It is not easy to hold your space.
And that's why it's so important to understand that holding space is not um like we said, uh an easy thing. It's practice, and when I say whenever we need to practice, let's not dive straight into the deep end. Start small. To the viewers out there, small, simple practices of holding space. So sometimes it could be like, all right, in the morning when I wake up super early to get ready for work, right? Instead of waking like 10 minutes before leaving the door, give yourself an hour or two, make yourself a cup of tea or whatever hot beverage you like, and kind of already there start physically showing up for yourself, if that makes sense. Physically holding your space. And then you start taking it another step further. I mean, look, this is just one example. There's many examples to do. You can journal, you can, words of affirmation. Um, you can also just give yourself that quiet time that you need and just reflect on how you're feeling today. Those are all ways that one can hold space for themselves. And then once you're doing that on your own and you feel a good grasp on that, then start putting yourself out there in party environments or big group environments and see, how do I interact in these groups, what comes up for me, and just observe, just check in, like, okay, I seem to get overwhelmed when the group is like really big, or I see I got intimidated by X, Y, and Z. Like, that's all awesome. We're here to learn, we're here to really dive deep into who we are. And we also have to understand that our space is forever growing, it's forever developing. So we must never be disheartened when let's say it gets a bit challenging, because that's part of life. We're constantly developing.
Evolving. And I also liked what you said was we can't just dive into the deep end. It starts small. It's like when you're starting to run or jog, you can't expect yourself to do a 10K run. I mean, you can put yourself to the extent, but like it will come at disadvantages of burnout or harming your body. You need to start slow and pick up and listen to your body and see what it says. The same way you can't just wake up to the gym and start lifting 100 kgs when you kind of need to prep your body, your muscles to be able to take in a bigger number of like weights. Like it's all growth and baby steps, and eventually I think we'll all figure it out, you know.
I sometimes think, again, we're in that kind of society that's like, you got to be there now, you got to be the CEO now, when in reality, no, you've got to start from the bottom. Like, we need to come back to being humble again, to starting from the beginning, and just acknowledging to ourselves that, hey, we don't know everything, and it's important that we just take the small steps that we need, because that small step starts to build and build and build, and that's where practice comes in. So it's important to know that because I think why a lot of people give up on a lot of goals and a lot of new behaviors, because they overwhelm themselves with trying to know it all, to try to be the person who's got the PhD, when, like, no, you've got to start from the beginning, and that's okay.
I actually love that, Austin. Beautifully said.
Yeah. And allowing ourselves the mistakes that come with the beginning.
Yeah.
Allowing ourselves the grace and
Mm.
just the understanding of what it means to start something. I feel like our generation definitely struggles with that,
Yeah.
with the whole I need to be perfect, I need to be this, I need to be that. And then we end up so like highly strung and stressed out
Oh
that we're
my.
not
Yeah.
actually allowing ourselves to enjoy the experience of being human and allowing ourselves to screw up a little
Yeah,
bit.
exactly. No, amen. Amen to that.
It takes time, but I think it's undeniably let me say that again, actually. It's an undeniable curiosity of self that leads to development. So it's wanting to know more about yourself, wanting to develop yourself, wanting to grow yourself, wanting to understand yourself. Because when you can understand and know yourself so clearly, you're actually then able to hold your own space, and you don't feel the need to mimic other people's behavior, mirror other people's behavior, or alter yourself to meet another person's behavior.
And this, just saying all of that, like, you're just now it comes to me. It's so important that we understand our values and our morals, if that makes sense. Because when we have a clear sense of our values and who we are and the morals in which we hold, we're also able to step into a group and hold our space. You know, if our values and morals within ourselves, okay, are altered or not built, or doesn't have a solid foundation, we're going to be swayed by other people. Now, I'm not trying to say don't uh, be open-minded or flexible, but it's important that you do hold a sense of a value system, because I know we have spoken about it in our in our uh,
Previous
podcast. Yeah,
topics.
yeah. Sorry, my brain.
So I think this is a great topic. I think it undeniably comes down to getting to know yourself, acknowledging your worth, staying humble, and just being curious about the discovery of yourself, which is fun. So, for all our listeners, thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed today's topic. Yeah, so remember your worth. Yeah, enjoy yourselves, follow, like, share, and we hope you found this one interesting.